Hi everyone, hi Nick. Back again with another completed journal. As you can see by the cover, this is a sewing themed journal. It is a really big one, really big one, gigantic. The cover is again chipboard, covered with this muslin fabric that has a sewing themed print to it. On the outside, the inside cover is brown cotton fabric, and then canvas on top of that. It's all been fringed, kind of distressed like, and all sewn around. Excuse me. The closure is a Tim Holtz hitch post with just the eyelets through the back. Around the spine is some colored seam binding and a vintage tape measure. And that's just wrapped around between, there's two signatures, so that just goes between the signatures, and then it's just tied with a bow. And then there's a dangle on here that's got, if I can get it up here, that's got a whole bunch of different stuff. There's a couple little bead dangles, and there's a sewing machine charm. There's a vintage thimble. It's a Tim Holtz little plate that says remnants. A Tim Holtz monocle. All tangled up here. Somewhere on here. Oh, a vintage bobbin. Couple of pins, and it's pinned on. There's another one of those bulb pins, garment pins, and there's some 3 vintage buttons on there. Oh, and there's another little Tim Holtz little number tag. I think, oops, I'm totally out of frame. I think that's all of it. That's just pinned through the bow, so you can take it off if you don't want it on there. But I like it. I think it's kind of pretty. Let's see. Measurements are, get it in frame, are 8, just about 8, if you don't count the fringe, by 6. That's 6 1/8, 6 1/4 if you count the little fringy bit. And it has a about 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch spine. As I said, 2 signatures sewn in, and this is some black braiding or macrame, for those necklace or chokers and things like that. Some cord. I don't use it very often because it is very hard to thread into the needle, so I don't use it very often. And this is about 2 yards of some dark gray seam binding, and it's doubled over, so you can loosen this up as you put your own stuff in here. The cover is actually it's a double thickness of chipboard, so it's a little bit stiffer than what I usually use. Still not 100% thrilled with it. I really wanted it to be stiffer than it actually came out to be, but it's better. And then camera is wobbling all over the place. Sorry. I feel like you're in an earthquake here. But gonna have to deal with it because that's what I have. So to open it, obviously you push down and then it just kind of explodes. There's tons of sewing in here. There's lots of vintage sewing ephemera, lots of extra little threads. The sewing ephemera, most of which I got from Renee. So thank you as always. You guys, you give me such amazing stuff. So let's go inside. Everything pretty much is coffee dyed. paper collection is Theodosia Square. Yeah, that one. Paper Studio. One of my absolute all-time favorite paper collections. I just had to buy some, replace it because I have used up an entire pad of it. I love it. As I said, this canvas here, and then there's just some cotton trim. This is open, you can tuck a little bit under there. Why the camera is wobbling so bad, don't know. Lots of vintage ephemera. All the corners either flip up or down, and everything is sewn on. It's either sewn around or just down the side. I've got ephemera from Nick the Booksmith, Dreams, etc. Tsunami Rose, here, there, and everywhere, all sorts of stuff. And for the tags, I used all alteration tags for the tags for this, and the ephemera. And some of them there's either seam binding or sari silk on here. All the coffee dyed pages are sewn around. Got plastic paper bags, they're all empty. Did some top loading pockets with just some layering of bits and pieces and sari silk. Just all different bits of ephemera and journal cards. Clips and paper clips. This is a vintage needle case and needle paper, and there are actually some needles in there. And this is a new little bit of ephemera that I got. Hang on, I'll get one of the little books. Hold on. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Oh shoot, where did I put them? See, this is what happens when I work. I just start throwing stuff. It goes everywhere. And then I clean up later. There we go. Found it. I have a big tub all full of vintage stuff. Okay, these little pages came out of this. I got 2 of these. And they have a sewn in binding. So if you clip the threads just right, you can take these all out. They're like sort of like a time card, but I guess you would keep track of it yourself, or maybe your employer would, because they both have someone's name on them. And then I think I can use the covers later on for something. Don't know what, but I'll figure something out. But I got 2 of those. So those are really cool. So that's that. Some of my old first grade or kindergarten workbook. Calendar page. It's the Tim Holtz coat hanger paper clip. We have a bunch of envelopes. This one's a Tsunami Rose with the stuff that goes inside it. You can do this real easy when the camera's not going. I'm trying to hurry. Did some altered paper clips, and these I used some vintage pattern directions. So there's 4 of these, and then the top they're just layered with some bits and pieces that I have and some vintage buttons. And this one just has, I tried to pick some ephemera that was kind of sewing-ish related. And this is the Tim Holtz dress form die. And she is open, so you can tuck something kind of small under there. And that also flips out. This is some pattern tissue paper. And I pulled some magazine, some of the advertisements from those vintage magazines that I have, and I tried to get this one. It's got into the binding. It's an ad for a sewing machine, and it has some patterns on the back. Some vintage music paper, and another flip, and just some more things to write on. Paper bag. This is some new ledger. Book page. Timesheet. This lace on some of the edges. These are all sewn on. Some more magazine page. This was an advertisement for some suit patterns. And these flip up and down, and do that too. And they're open at the back. Some grid paper, some crochet trim. There's a garment pin with a vintage button. Another corner flip there, all sewn around. Some more ephemera and a tag. There's the center. I just cut the string short this time. This is a coffee dyed envelope that flips out. Tuck something in there. And there's a little scalloped pocket on top of the envelope, and there's a vintage rickrack label. So you can tuck something in the little pocket there, and that's just the end of one of those alteration tags. So you can put something in it, you can put something inside the little rickrack label, and you can also go behind it, so it's kind of like a triple tuck. And this goes with that Tim Holtz dress form die. It's got the dress form, a spool, and a button. That's one of the spools, and just some more ephemera tucked behind. I did try to leave some space. And some more ephemera. These are Tsunami Rose Big Elements. And that's a time card, and I stapled it, folded it up and stapled, so there's a, you've got a little pocket back there to tuck a little something. And there's another one of these little bobbins. I have 3 of those in here somewhere. This is a game spinner, just for the heck of it. Other side of the paper bag, there's another one of these flips. And that's a vintage button. One flips up, some more ephemera, some gold paper clips with sari silk. Another altered paper clip. some more pattern. And this flips out twice, just for something different. And another envelope. This one's Artie Mays. And that one's empty. Excuse me. And another flip and some more stuff. This is a vintage, it's just hook and loop, little hooks, just on there with a bulldog clip, binder clip. Another top loading pocket, and that's a little bit of ephemera. It's just glued down. Here. That one's a Tsunami Rose. Paper bag. That's the first signature. Other bags, copy dyed stuff, another flip with some more ephemera and a tag, some more magazine pages and music. That's a vintage button card with a couple of buttons. Another timesheet. That's another flip. This is another advertisement for a sewing machine. It's a little vintage ribbon label with a alteration tag, and that's some sari silk there. There's another flip out. Paper bags, some more workbook. That flips down. And this is a vintage sort of like a Dear Abby for sewing. There's a question about how you do something, and there's the answer. And this is just decoupage on, so you can kind of write over it. I did with glue, so you can kind of write over it. And that is some vintage trim that Renee gave me. She gave me that as well. That's a little Tim Holtz number brad. Line paper. There's another altered paper clip. Another flip. Oh, center of the signature. Forgot to turn these off. Gotta do that. And this is a vintage zipper. used for a belly band. I just glued it top and bottom. There's a garment pin with a vintage button on there, and that's just a belly band. And this is a vintage card for something. Seam binding or something. It was just this, was just the card. And there's another one of these flips, and this guy doesn't want to stay, so I clipped him on. One of those clothespins. There's that. And another envelope. Can you hear my bird? He's going bonkers downstairs. I don't know what he is squawking about. He's probably fighting with himself in his mirror. Oh, well, I will get that later. And there's another vintage button with a little bit of lace. Another flip. Some more ephemera off the internet. Workbook. Paper bag. Flip out. Vintage buttons. This is just, they're not tucks, they're just glued down, both of them. There's one in the front. Another top-loading pocket with some ephemera. And then this is some vintage, it looks like kind of like 80s maybe. And there's the instructions on the back of how to sew that onto a garment. If you're old enough to remember, back in the early 80s, the style was you wear like a sweater or like a little round neck, and then you'd have this little separate little lace collar that you would hook on, or you'd sew, you know, like a little yoke of lace. And I think that is probably, this is what it reminds me of that. That's probably what that was from. Some more ephemera, and this is Artie Mae's. I didn't get into my Regency journal. I stuck it in there. Get it off my desk. That flips down. There's another vintage button card put on with a binder clip. This is the flap of one of the envelopes, and that's Tsunami Rose flowers. And this envelope is the same as the one in the front, and it's got the scalloped pocket. Another one of these little bobbins, spools, and tag, and that's open behind. Some more music, some more advertisement, sewing machine. It's another time card, and it's also stapled up at the back, makes a pocket. Another altered paper clip. One more flip up. Some more pattern tissue, another page from that time book, last page, and the back cover, which is exactly the same as the front. So there you have it. This will be listed in my Etsy Pumpkin Patch Journals. I am also now on Instagram. I will post that link below if you'd like to follow me on Instagram. I will be doing kind of documenting as I go through making journals. I will do documented updates as I work through the journals. Kidding me. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and I will see you next time. Bye.